This episode of Vikings is the most meticulously crafted and the most sorrowful of the entire series. Vikings commemorates the legendary Shield-Maiden Lagertha with a funeral of the highest standard. The story picks up right where the last episode left off. On a stormy night, Fitzurk inadvertently avenged his mother by killing the severely wounded Queen of Kattegat, Lagertha, and then fled the scene. It is only the next day that the townspeople discover Lagertha's frozen body. Seeing her revered queen meet such an end, Torvi is overwhelmed with grief. What baffles her even more is why Lagertha was alone at that place. Could Gunhild's dream have been true? Thus, Torvi immediately sets off for Lagertha's village. The astute Ob promptly suspects Fitzurk, but by this time, Fitzurk is nowhere to be found. Upon arriving at the village, Torvi naturally learns everything and can only accept the fact of her son's death with grief. They must return to Kattegat immediately to hold a grand funeral for Lagertha.
Lagertha must have a great funeral. She meant so much to so many.
As the Queen of Kattegat, Lagertha cannot depart alone. Therefore, they need to choose one Shield-Maiden from among many to accompany Lagertha to Valhalla. The Shield-Maidens see this as the highest honor, and they all clamor to sacrifice themselves. Torvi also wishes to accompany Lagertha, but because she is pregnant, Gunhild refuses her request. They decide to let a raven, representing the gods, make the choice. After circling the hall a few times, the raven lands on a Shield-Maiden named Gyda. Lagertha's deceased daughter was also named Gyda. This Shield-Maiden's mother named her daughter Gyda in memory of Gyda, who died from the plague, making her the most suitable person to accompany Lagertha. Not long after, Alma finds Fitzurk in the forest. Faced with questioning by Ob and others, Fitzurk remains silent, filled with guilt and fear, and now can only choose to flee.
I want to talk and just sleep.
Afterward, the sacrificial ceremony began, and Gyda, having been chosen by the gods, was eager to accompany Lagertha. Lagertha's heroic image appears repeatedly before her, and she feels Lagertha's call. Gyda first toasts the gods and Lagertha, then engages intimately with three young male priests representing the gods. After these events, what awaits Gyda is the Angel of Death. The Angel of Death offers Gyda two choices, a knife and a rope.
A knife. Look at my eyes.
After the sacrificial ceremony, the funeral preparations are ready. As the Queen of Kattegat, Lagertha's funeral is naturally a ship burial of the highest standard. Ob, Gunhild, and Torvi each offer their eulogies and gifts.
Farewell, Lagertha, Queen of Kattegat, Mother of Norway.
Just before the fire is lit, Lagertha's son Bjorn finally arrives.
You don't need to tell me, Oba. I already know.
As the character with the highest screen time throughout the series, Lagertha finally makes her exit in Season 6. Whether in the main storyline of Ragnar's era or the multiple subplots of the post-Ragnar era, Lagertha remains the soul of the series. Lagertha is not only the guardian of Kattegat but also the staunchest supporter of Ragnar's faith. She is the greatest Shield-Maiden of her time and a hero and role model to all women. Although Lagertha grew weary of fighting and longed to retire to a peaceful life, she ultimately could not escape her destiny. Yet Lagertha lived a truly remarkable life, helping Ragnar create the Viking legend and raising a great son who is revered by many. Countless heroes admire her, and both commoners and warriors regard Lagertha as a pillar of strength. Later, warriors on the cliffs help break the ice with arrows, and the Shield-Maidens on the ice use their bodies to pull her boat. Lagertha's pale face becomes gradually blurred by the flames, but in people's hearts, she will always be the most charismatic queen. After being captured by Oleg, Dir was treated like a dog and locked in a cage, his face bound with an iron chain. Ivar knew that with Oleg's brutal nature, it was only a matter of time before someone close to him would suffer, and this Dir might be an opportunity. During his time in Kiev, Ivar was constantly at Igor's side, trying to sow discord between Igor and Oleg. Essentially, he wanted Igor to understand that all of Rus should be under his rule, not Oleg's, and that he needed to find a way to break free from Oleg's control.
and everything in the whole of Rus. The land, the sky, the villages, the town, the people. It's all yours.
Later, Ivar secretly visited Dir and used the promise of freedom to test Dir's reaction. Hearing about freedom, a glimmer of hope ignited in Dir's desperate eyes. He expressed his willingness to exchange everything for his freedom, otherwise, he wouldn't survive the winter. Ivar was not interested in the lands, wealth, or beauties Dir promised. He only wanted to use Dir to overthrow Oleg. One night, a naked woman caught the attention of the guards.
Don't just stand there gawping. Let's see what she's up to.
As the guards went forward to investigate, Ivar and Igor stealthily approached the cage holding Dir. While the dim-witted guards were still fantasizing about the naked woman, they were completely unaware that this was a diversion, and a cripple and a child managed to slip right under their noses. Indeed, the main reason was the naked woman, who was Dir's wife, Anna. They had already prepared to meet him outside the city.
This is not the last time I will ask. We shall meet again soon.
After discovering Dir's escape, Oleg killed those guards and presented their heads on the dinner table to test Ivar and Igor's reactions. Under Ivar's guidance, Igor did not show any flaws. Oleg issued a warning to Igor.
You understand that with Dear Free you are in more danger of being kidnapped than ever.
After that, the matter was dropped. But what Oleg announced next truly shocked Ivar. Oleg introduced his new wife, Princess Katya, to them. Upon closer inspection, Ivar was stunned. She looked almost exactly like Fritis. Even Igor noticed Ivar's astonished expression, and he even suspected Ivar of seeing ghosts.
Believe me, I have.
Ivar believed that Oleg was taunting him after investigating his background, so he privately approached Katya to get some answers.
You are Freydis.
Freydis. I don't understand.
Neither do I. But it is true, and you and I were once married.
However, Katya showed no reaction to Ivar's story and instead questioned him.
What happened to us?
Unable to admit that he had personally killed Fritis, Ivar could only guiltily watch Katya walk away. Upon learning that his new wife resembled Ivar's former wife, Oleg's mischievous nature was rekindled. To embarrass Ivar, they deliberately asked Ivar to help Katya remove her coat, and even began a live show in front of Ivar. Ivar could hardly stand to watch this, but Oleg wouldn't let him leave and told him it was for his own good. This undoubtedly pierced the most vulnerable part of Ivar's heart. Throughout the entire winter, they stayed in Kiev, waiting for spring to arrive. During this time, Igor fulfilled his wish to ice skate, and Katya fulfilled her desire to soak in a hot spring. Compared to the wishes of women and children, the desires of Ivar and Oleg could never be fulfilled, because one wanted to walk like a normal person, and the other wanted to return to his mother's womb to be reborn. Perhaps only those who dare to dream and act are qualified to achieve great things.
Some the beginning.
It's all in the beginning!
Once again, a scene of fratricide unfolds before us. Bjorn is set to execute his half-brother Hvitserk by fire. The reason for this drastic action is that Hvitserk murdered his mother, the Queen of Kattegat, Lagertha. Although Hvitserk killed Lagertha in a state of delirium, he had avenged his mother's death, so he harbored no regrets. Just as the flames were about to consume Hvitserk, Bjorn gave up a knowing look. The merciful Bjorn spared Hvitserk's life. After all, killing his kin was not in keeping with Ragnar's beliefs, as Ragnar had once spared Floki's life. Though spared from death, Hvitserk could not escape punishment, and Bjorn was not about to let him ascend to Valhalla so easily. Bjorn banished Hvitserk from Kattegat, letting him experience the life of a fugitive. Whether Hvitserk would survive the winter was now up to fate. For some time afterwards, Bjorn fools around with Ingrid on a daily basis, and Gunhild, with her womanly instincts, soon puts the lie to their adulterous affair. Surprisingly, Gunhild did not explode with rage. She realized that Bjorn had fallen in love with Ingrid. Moreover, Gunhild was grateful to Ingrid for helping Bjorn heal from his grief, especially since Bjorn had just lost his mother, his child, and the throne of Norway. Considering the greater good, Gunhild released Ingrid from her servitude and allowed Bjorn to take another wife.
But you should know, Bjorn. Your mother was attacked by the outlaws you released from Kattegat. You are a great man, but even great men make mistakes.
A few days later, Ab and Kjetil set off on their journey to Iceland. Before departing, Ab and Bjorn embraced tightly. Little did they know, this farewell would be their last. In a Norwegian village, the Russ began their probing attacks. They started by planting a military flag on the open ground, followed by ghost-like cavalry. As the saying goes, true talent is found among the common folk, and who would have thought that a Norwegian blacksmith would possess such extraordinary combat skills? With a hammer in his left hand and a horseshoe in his right, he taught these Russ, who bullied the common folk, a severe lesson. However, aside from the blacksmith, the other villagers had no ability to fight back. They were like fish on a chopping board, at the mercy of their enemies. The blacksmith continued to fight valiantly, but even the biggest tiger could not stand up to a pack of wolves. Isolated, he could not withstand the successive attacks of the Russians, and eventually he was cut down from behind by the enemy. With the blacksmith's death, the massacre finally came to an end. After the Russ departed, an elderly survivor was rescued and brought back to the capital.
Well, what does this signify? What did these raiders look like?
Strange men with strange voices. Went like ghosts.
Yet, when the old man described the enemy, the arrogant herald scoffed at his account, asking Olaf for his opinion on the matter.
Who have staked a claim to our land. And one day, they will return. Not as a raiding party, but as an army.